Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation on developmental supervision. Uh, and we last week we left off talking about a teacher's level of abstraction, the level of support that we take our subordinates through. It increases, but it increases based upon need, or I should say, it decreases, and decreases based upon need. That need we qualified last week as a level of abstraction. So, abstraction is the teacher's ability to move from one orientation to more orientations uh, in the context of a classroom or a department or a building. So, at the first level, we said that's a low level of abstraction. And we said that the educator or the teacher has difficulty identifying instructional problems. They are unable to generate alternative solutions, and they seek concrete advice from uh, a person they deem as an expert or an authority on how to complete a certain task. We also discussed last week that individuals' level of abstraction will be relegated or are focused on a particular, it could be focused on a particular thing, and not that person just has a low level of abstraction in every component or every area of the profession. uh, and so make sure that you keep that in mind. Now, last week we also talked about the importance of trust, uh, and how trust impacts feedback and how feedback impacts growth of an individual or a teacher. So, same thing applies here. Trust is at the foundational piece of the coaching session or the supervision, and we're always moving toward making sure that we have an optimal learning environment or an optimal learning situation. What that means is, bottom line is, are students learning? And if students are learning, that is the ultimate goal. So, how do we get teachers to a level that we maximize student learning? So, low level of abstraction, we just identified those characteristics. The next level is a moderate level of abstraction. And here the individual can determine instructional problems, but it's more they have a tendency to focus more on a single dimension. They're able to generate one or two possible solutions, but it's still, like I said, independent thinking, or it's one dimension. They will need assistance and support in selecting and prioritizing solutions. And here it's like you are identifying a solution and matching that solution with potential problems. Uh, you also, this individual is thinking through consequences, and they will also begin to think about how their improvement is going to be tied to this plan that they're coming up with. The highest level is what we of abstractions, where an individual can identify problems from a multiple sources of information. They have a solid understanding of who they are as an educator, a solid understanding of their content, but more importantly, a solid understanding of where they want to take the students. Once you know exactly where you want to take your students, or you want to take your school or take your department, you are going to be able to uh, identify potential pitfalls, identify potential challenges, identify potential holes, and then you can identify strategies to avoid those or to overcome those. A person with a high level of abstraction can visualize various strategies, anticipate consequences, and then they are able to both mentally and very concretely identify a path to success for themselves. It makes me think when our colleague said last week, it's that flow chart, and that flow chart exists both mentally, but also very concretely or very physically. And I would say the greatest asset of a person with a high level of abstraction is right here. They are able to take full responsibility of the results. So as we talk about developmental levels of supervision, we said that it's those levels are going to be dependent upon where the person that we're supervising is coming into the equation. Are they coming in at a low level of abstraction, or are they coming at a medium level, or is it the highest level? So now this is what the support looks like. The first approach is what we call directive control. The directive control method of supervision is used to transmit supervisor expectations to teachers very clearly. I'm going to be very direct with you. In the sake of our transparency, uh, I am going to handle you very gently and delicately. I am going to probably over communicate with you because I really want you to follow the information as I am giving it to you. It's a very prescribed method. Supervisors using this method reinforce their ideas using a very positional or hierarchical approach. Um, I am the principal, and so as speaking as principal, I am directing you to do the following, and then I'm going to bullet point out the things I'm going to have them to do. Um, the behaviors will consist of clarifying, uh, listening, but I'm listening so I can give more direction. And that's a different type of listening when I'm working with the next uh, three levels. I'm always problem solving, but more importantly, I am directing, I am standardizing, and I'm reinforcing with a clear line of authority. The direction is mostly from a supervisor or a coach to a teacher, and more so from an administrator to a teacher. Is used best when teachers they're new to the profession, so they're coming in what we call kind of green, or they're new to the profession. Sometimes they're straight out of student teaching, uh, and we want to make sure that as we support and grow them, we are very clear in our communication to them. And then I would say it's also used in a very serious situation or an emergency type situation. And so when those things are happening, I am making sure that I am very direct, but I'm also controlling. I'm controlling the flow. I'm controlling the results. I'm very much so in control. The next level, what we call is directive, is still directive, but this instance it shifts from control to informational. So remember, we still point back to the levels of abstraction, but my approach is less controlling, and I'm definitely seeking more information here. What we see on the slide, it says the directive informational method of supervision is used to direct the teacher to consider and choose from clearly delineated alternative actions. And so, um, as I shift from control to informational, I know that the person that I'm working with has the capacity to think beyond a single uh, area, and they're able to identify a problem and not just have me tell them what the problem is. So they've acknowledged it. So as I'm going through different scenarios, I'm adding to their toolkit, but I'm also giving them a little choice in what they're going to choose to assist them in this situation. Yeah, it says in this method, the supervisor is the main source of information. We're going to always point back to an expected outcome or a goal. And the supervisor, I'm asking the teacher input, but as I ask that input, I'm really guiding where I want them to go in their responses. In the end, the teacher is asked to make the decision as to which practice that they actually want to use. And so I'm working with an English teacher, and as I work with this English teacher, we want to really increase student engagement. So I may give them a couple of different strategies. Give one, get one, as students are circulating around the room. Or we may use a carousel activity, carousel writing activity. We could use four corners as an activity that will increase student engagement. So from that list of three, the teacher gets to choose exactly which approach or which strategy they want to use connected to that lesson that they are delivering. Lastly, it says this approach is typically used when the expertise and confidence of the supervisor clearly outweighs the teacher's own information and expertise. So, a little bit different from directive control. It's directive informational. And like I said, it's the next rung on the ladder, or it's the next progression level that you're going to take a teacher through as you're providing that support. Now, remember, we're talking about developmental levels of supervision. What we really haven't talked about is there a time frame that I'm using a particular approach as I'm supervising a teacher? And the response is that is no. It's going to be dependent upon the reaction of that teacher, how well the feedback is received, what is the condition of the school. And what I mean by that is are you in a turnaround school where you expected to bring about improvement within the first year, within the second year, or within 3 years? And so knowing the bigger time frame, it begins to guide you on your approach and how fast the individual is soaking in the supervision and showing evidence of the practices, and they have different outcomes in their instruction. The next level is collaborative. And just like it says, we are collaborating. We are working together on some of the challenges. And as we identify solutions, they are adding ideas. I'm adding ideas. And it is truly a partnership. Um, it's truly based upon the individual's ability to make instructional decisions. And so now you've been working with an individual and you see that they're at a level where they have a better understanding of where they want to go, what their resources are, and a better understanding of the students and what the students bring to the table. It says this method consists of clarifying listening. Once again, we got listening, but in this listening, I'm listening to go deeper and I'm listening to kind of add to what their ideas are. And I'm not listening to correct, but I'm listening to expand per se. We are reflecting, we're problem solving. There's a lot of negotiation that's going to take place here, and that negotiation is negotiating from a coaching standpoint. I'm not trying to negotiate to talk a person down. My negotiation is going back to that English teacher example. If they we're at a different point in the school year, and we're talking about student engagement, and they want to use four corners as a collaborative engaging approach, my negotiation may be like, okay, I'm going to ask a series of questions like, the last time we used that strategy, did it achieve the expected outcome that we hoped that it achieved? How do you know? Did you get a chance to survey the students and ask students how they felt about the activity? Okay, did they feel like they were able to really voice their thoughts and concerns and opinions and perspectives to their classmates using this particular strategy? All right, what might be a better strategy to get us an even greater outcome? So when I think about negotiation, it's negotiation from that particular standpoint. This method is appropriate when teachers and supervisors pretty much have it says the same level of experience, but I would say it's not saying that Brookings has 21 years of administrative experience, so the teacher needs to have 21 years of experience. It's not saying that, but it's experience with being at this collaborative level more so than actual numerical years, and a concern with the problem. What are we trying to accomplish? What is the ultimate goal? The next is a non-directive approach, and this is probably the highest approach and approach that really reflects coaching. The non-directive method of supervision is used when the supervisor is helping the teacher figure out their own plans. So when you think about cognitive coaching, yeah, this is what this is. This method consists of listening, reflecting, clarifying, encouraging, and problem solving. It can be used when the teachers have a great amount of expertise and knowledge about a problem, and they may have more experience than me as a supervisor, and that is okay. I am very comfortable with that because once again, I am coaching them. Through my coaching process, I am not only identifying a problem, but I'm connecting them to some of their past experiences, but I'm also connecting them to experiences that I've seen in other classrooms. And through that connection, the point is for them to tap into their repository of instructional uh, activities, their repository of experiences, to see how those experiences and that knowledge can benefit them in this particular situation. It is a disciplined dialogue between two educators for the benefit of increasing student learning. I have a lot of conversations at this level when we are looking for How do we meet the needs of the students who already have it? So when I think about the PLC model and those four questions, and I always like to approach the four questions from a student lens. What is it that you want me to learn? How do you know I learned it? What are you going to do if I haven't learned it? But what are you going to do if I already come to your class knowing this? And so this non-directive approach and this coaching at this level is like, how are we meeting the needs of students who are at that level? And so it is an interesting dialogue as me and the teacher, are going through a discussion where we are really pulling in some higher order thinking activities, but also they have to be relevant because we really want to stretch this type of student. So those are the developmental levels of supervision. And once again, they are non-directive, they are collaborative, they are directive informational, and then they are directive control. And it's all dependent upon a teacher's level of abstraction or an educator's level of abstraction. So that is a continuation of where we left off last week. In closing, how are we going to apply this thinking? So, in the forward thinking link that I am attaching to this presentation, I want you to go through these three questions, thinking back to the developmental levels of supervision, thinking back to the things that we have discussed in our class up to this point, and uh, answer those three questions. Uh, we will meet again on November the 12th. And until then, I wish you all the best. And I expect that you are making a difference in the lives of the students that you're working with. And I'm going to push a little bit more this week. I expect you to also be making a difference in the life of a colleague from an instructional position. You all take care, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.